وأنه هو أضحك وأبكى. Welcome back. I'm grateful that you're still listening to my story. And today the episode is called Peaks and Valleys. Peaks and valleys means ups and downs, the crazy times and the happy times that came along with this journey. The a very expressive person in terms of this journey, understanding the deen. I acknowledge my frustrations. That's one of the things that has helped me learn the deen. I don't pretend to love. I don't pretend to be happy when I'm not. So in this journey, when I was on days I didn't want to recite, that is also possible. And it's not because you are a bad person. It's not because it just comes. It's human nature. When something is new to you, there's resistance. So there are days where I just didn't want to recite. So what I would do is I would put the Quran aside and rest. Yeah. But then frustrations also came from the angle of how do I recite this with a good tajweed? How do I recite this with the correct pronunciations? Yeah. So there are times where I would know what the verses mean. There are times where I would just know how to read it without knowing what it means. And then there are times where I didn't know what it meant. I didn't even know how to read it. So I found places like that, places that were not familiar to me. And what I did in those moments was to call up friends who knew how to recite better than me. And then they would recite it through with me. Then I would figure it out and it would be a smoother process, I should say. So, truth be told, the frustrations weren't. When you are in the moment, frustrations seem like a very big deal. But when you're looking back, frustrations seem so minute. Like, you look at yourself and you're like, nah, like, why was I overreacting? Why was the beauty of the experience makes the frustration so minimal? Yeah, so the frustrations I could pinpoint a few, like where I found it difficult to recite, or where I didn't want to recite. If there's one thing I urge someone who wants to start their journey is acknowledge your emotions in reference to reciting Quran, because acknowledging them and working on them is what is going to help you move. But if you keep on suppressing them, eventually you're going to have like an outburst, and then you just abandon everything. So I acknowledged the small bits of frustration and learned how to deal with them. Then the happiness bit. This is one of my most exciting yet parts of this journey that weirded me out. Like, I don't even know if that's a real word, but I look back and I'm like, what was going on? Because there are two things that happened that there are two things that I remember happened, because there was so much happening in terms of positivity, but these two things stand out. This journey brought about a kind of happiness in me that only my friends could see, like before I did. And I would say it, I was so happy on this journey that my friends could tell me, what are you doing that's making you this happy these days? And then they would, the friends I'm talking about are they don't know each other. So when I talk about the fact that there was that common question, and then I would look back at what I was doing, it was the only new thing that was there was Quran. The only constant that was there was Quran. It brought out this happiness in me to want to do more in other aspects of life. It brought out this happiness in me to want to live life fully. It was just unexplainable, I must say. It was joy from within. Joy from within. And my friends are the ones who can explain it best, because I would not be aware of it and they would be telling me, why are you happy? And then there are times I would call up a friend and they would hear my sad or frustrated tone and they're like, it seems you haven't recited in a while. And they would be right. And I would be like, oh my God, this is what comes with reciting this book. And it made my perspective way wider, that it's not about, oh, I completed the Quran, or there's so much deeper embedded in reciting the Quran, the impact it has on your body, on your emotions. And that's one of the things I look at and I'm like, I can't explain what happened, but there was an immense happiness that came about whenever I recited. And then the second thing was a test. The second thing was a test I had in my mouth. Yeah. It was a test that could come and go. And it wasn't always there like every time I recite, but it's a test I recognize every time I'm constantly reciting, or other times when I'm fasting, it comes up. It's a test where it's like a lemony, but without that strength of lemon. It's less, it's tangy, it's not as sweet, it's subtle. It's so beautiful a taste. And I would be like, so this is what reciting tastes like. And it only came when I recited Quran or during Siyam when I was fasting. And that showed me that this deen thing, this Quran thing, this Allah, be looking for Allah in all situations, brings you to places you couldn't have imagined. It brings out things in you that you couldn't have imagined, because we know only the basics. I mean, someone knows Quran, well, they stand out in society, but the internal feelings are way profound. They have more value to them, they have more depth to them. And that's one of the things I noticed on this journey that far outweighs everything else. The beauty that came about with reciting. I even wanted to research if there's such a thing as Quran dopamine, because dopamine is like a hormone that's triggered when you're happy. So I wanted to research on that, but maybe that's a discussion for some other time, because there's a happiness that comes when you recite Quran, and it comes after a while, and you might not be able to notice it. People around you will. Yeah, and that's one thing I found amazing. But those are the two things I found amazing. Those were the peaks of my journey through the Quran. My takeaway from this is this whole experience was a manifestation of a verse where Allah says, and whoever is mindful of Him, He will make a way out for them from places they least expected. That is the best way I can explain this experience. Places you least expect will bring you so much joy. That is all for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode like I did. Till next time, thanks for listening.